Essays in Experimental Logic by John Dewey. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Prefatory Note. In 1903, a volume was published by the University of Chicago Press entitled Studies in Logical Theory as a part of the decennial publications of the university. The volume contained contributions by Drs. Thompson, now Miss Woolley, McLennan, Ashley, Gore, Heidel, Stewart, and more, in addition to 4 essays by the present writer, who was also general editor of the volume. The edition of the studies being recently exhausted, the director of the press suggested that my own essays be reprinted, together with other studies of mine in the same field. The various contributors to the original volume cordially gave assent, and the present volume is the outcome. Chapters 2 through 5, inclusive, represent, with editorial revisions, mostly omissions, the essays taken from the old volume. The first and introductory chapter has been especially written for the volume. The other essays are in part reprinted, and in part rewritten, with additions, from various contributions to philosophical periodicals. I would like to point out that the essay on Some Stages of Logical Thought antedates the essays taken from the volume of studies, having been published in 1900. The other essays have been written since then. I should also like to point out that the essays in their psychological phases are written from the standpoint of what is now termed a behavioristic psychology, though some of them antedate the use of that term as a descriptive epithet. J.D., Columbia University, April 3, 1916. End of prefatory note. Essays in Experimental Logic by John Dewey. Chapter 1. Introduction. Sections 1 through 4. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. The key to understanding the doctrine of the essays which are herewith reprinted lies in the passages regarding the temporal development of experience. Setting out from a conviction, more current at the time when the essays were written than it is now, that knowledge implies judgment, and hence thinking, the essays try to show 1. That such terms as thinking, reflection, judgment denote inquiries or the results of inquiry, and 2. That inquiry occupies an intermediate and mediating place in the development of an experience. If this be granted, it follows at once that a philosophical discussion of the distinctions and relations which figure most largely in logical theories depends upon a proper placing of them in their temporal context, and that, in default of such placing, we are prone to transfer the traits of the subject matter of one phase to that of another, with a confusing outcome. Section 1. An intermediary stage for knowledge, that is, for knowledge comprising reflection and having a distinctively intellectual quality, implies a prior stage of a different kind, a kind variously characterized in the essays as social, affectional, technological, aesthetic, etc. It may most easily be described from a negative point of view. It is a type of experience which cannot be called a knowledge experience without doing violence to the term knowledge and to experience. It may contain knowledge resulting from prior inquiries. It may include thinking within itself, but not so that they dominate the situation and give it its peculiar flavor. Positively, anyone recognizes the difference between an experience of quenching thirst, where the perception of water is a mere incident, and an experience of water where knowledge of what water is the controlling interest. Or between the enjoyment of social converse among friends and a deliberate study made of the character of one of the participants. Between aesthetic appreciation of a picture and an examination of it by a connoisseur to establish the artist, or by a dealer who has a commercial interest in determining its probable selling value. The distinction between the two types of experience is evident to anyone who will take the trouble to recall what he does most of the time when not engaged in meditation or inquiry. But since one does not think about knowledge except when he is thinking, except, that is, when the intellectual or cognitional interest is dominant, the professional philosopher is only too prone to think of all experiences as if they were of the type he is specially engaged in, and hence unconsciously or intentionally to project its traits into experiences to which they are alien.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?